everyone, I'm Wenzhao.
And I'm Jiayi.
We're here to give a presentation about The Other Architect, written by Giovanna Brossi. Alright, so before we dig into this piece of writing, first I would like to give a bit of background information about the author and the topic, The Other Architect, that we're going to discuss today. Well, with an education background in architecture, Brossi has worked as a writer and the editor, and is currently the chief curator of CCA, that is the Canadian Centre of Architecture. Throughout her career, we could see a constant emphasis on exploring contemporary issues through architecture, and this led to the exhibition we are seeing here, The Other Architects, which took place in October 2015. And our reading is actually an excerpt from the book, published after the exhibition, as shown here. And working as the epilogue of the book, the article illustrated the aim and content of the research on the other architects in an epitomic way. So here today, through the discussion of this piece, we will look at the following aspects around this topic.
First is the goal of this article or the aim of the exhibition. What point Brossi is trying to make by bringing together these architects?
And then we move on to the 9 separate characters of such kind of practices concluded by her.
And finally, a summary of this article and several of our own questions regarding this issue raised here. To start with, we need to make a clear definition of the term the other architects. Here, by using the word other, Brossi is starting a strong contrast between those practices and those that she calls as traditional architects. Being traditional means being more focused on the construction of the artifact, on the physicalization of certain spatial ideas, on building real buildings for clients. But being the other means all the contrary to that. The other architects described here take the fields as intellectual one. They contribute new thinking of the role of architecture and innovative approaches to experiments and research, and keep on pushing the boundaries of our field by actively searching and reacting to contemporary problems.
What's the purpose of bringing up these practices? We believe one of the underlying goals behind this article and the exhibition is to provide an operating manual. The research gives detailed inspection of those other practices and gives out almost like a step-to-step guide through those 9 separate points. So that could be a reference and an inspiration for future architects to divert from traditional paths and be critically involved in pressing issues over time and reshape the concept of architecture. And more importantly, we can sense a higher motivation above all this, that is the desire to take the position to actively involve in the society and to construct our cultural agenda, so that instead of being a passive practice that could only react to the clients and be influenced by power and socioeconomic structures, we can actually respond energetically and radically about contemporary issues. Now we're moving on to the 9 aspects that Brossi gives, which detailedly describes how the other architects are distinctly different from ordinary practices. They, according to our view, can actually be recategorized into 4 parts: the people involved, the aim of their research, their operating environment, and how they perform. First, about the collaborative player is about the people involved in those other architectural practices, like Urban Innovation Group from UCLA, where people come from various backgrounds providing different perspectives, and the role of professor and students are usually interchangeable here, so everyone can be both a learner and a teacher to promote thinking and communication. Then about the aim of these practices, the second point, the unexpected role. These practices claim themselves to be taking roles from other professions to instigate new ways of working. For instance, design-a-thons take the form of a television show to enable more conversation between public and urban designers on the topic about city constructions. The third one, the apparently tangential research topic, shows that the topic of these other researches are somehow peripheral, yet in a progressive way. Cedric Price's inflatable structures here are used as a good example because his researches not only expand the field of investigation to a new range, but also has a social impact with the democratic use of those structures. In the fourth paragraph, a new mandate, by listing all the mandates proposed by those experiments, the writer tries to show that these new practices have reached an autonomous state by commissioning their own tasks and have the ability to respond to the current problems of here and now.
Chapter 5 and 6 are about operating environment of architectural and urban researchers. Chapter 5, a healthy separation. Architecture and urban researchers are separated from real practice and free from commissions so that they can work individually. For instance, AMO works separately with OMA, and it can always produce research productions which can become reference to practical projects in OMA. Chapter 6, the design context. Institutions are found to operate within a context outside of visual environments, and it's a nice choice to build relationship or cooperation with educational institutions like museums and schools, and sometimes individual participants, because only when a research program is set free from battlefield pursuit, it can fully function in an academic context. Well, chapters 7 to 9 are about how architectural and urban researchers perform. Chapter 7, Portable Knowledge. This is mainly about projects' influence on other projects. Although one architecture's influence is quite limited by its geographical location, which means limitation of interaction with people, architecture can be transformed into methods, subjects, or tools to be applied to other projects. So in this way, architecture is flowing. Chapter 8, Architecture as a Tool. This is mainly about architecture's influence on the public issue. It can reveal social problems, validate hypotheses, and open up public inquiries. Also, architectural thinking is quite crucial to organize architectural productions. Chapter 9, the venue, the form, the method. This chapter talks about three important aspects for relate researchers and available tools. For example, distant conferences break geographic limitation and can make participants in global scale involved. Places where architectural experts and researchers are possessed is also crucial for effective interaction with the public. Architects can take use of whatever tools are available to pass their thoughts and ideas to the public. While this article clearly articulates what is the definition of the other architects and what they can do differently from conventional methods to cast their influence both on the social agenda and architectural profession itself, but still we want to re-examine the idea of the other architect from a critical perspective and try to open up further thinking about it with our questions.
First, the author draws a clear line between the traditional practices and the other architects by using the word the other. With this separation, she seemed to advocate that those other architectural practices are better at reacting to the social problems and to express architectural thinking in an intellectual way. But here in this two picture of the exhibitions, we can see the left one is the exhibition by Barassi that we've been talking about, and the right one is the recent exhibition by Japan architects in MoMA with a display of models in a more traditional way. Actually, there are reports saying that audience find the left one harder to understand. So here brings our first question. Is those other means really better at carrying out the architectural thoughts? Doesn't the physical beauty entail the intellectual research of our world?
Secondly, do architects need to participate in real practices before they become the other architect? Because it's quite interesting to think that without solid experience within the real architectural practice, can these research results connect closely and be applicable to the practical projects? Thirdly, when it comes to the definition of architects, will this occupation be more separated or better merged with more of those other architects? The author indicates a trend of separation of academic level and a practical level of architecture. Is that good or bad? Additionally, is architectural thinking, which the author mentioned in the chapter architecture as a tool, the main difference between the other architects and the other social sciences like sociologists and economists, then what is architectural thinking exactly? Those questions might not be easy to be answered based on the current cognition in our constantly varying context, but they might lead to interesting further discussions. To sum up, in this article, the author tries to maintain architecture's position as an intellectual field and push the boundaries to enable more potentials to engage with the urgent issues of our society. Also, she here shows a tendency to establish an independent profession branch of architects who operate their work only on a research or academic level called the other architect. It's quite inspiring to present different ways of how architecture, this profession, can be expanded into other fields, both shaping them and be shaped.
Yet, according to our understanding of this article, the author seems to put the other architects into a position where they cast larger influence compared to traditional ones. But is that really the case? Also, are these other architectural projects really progressive to our profession in an avant-garde way, or are they just adding to the flattened pluralism of our time and culture? I think we will leave this question open to you to think about.